Hi everyone, welcome back to Brookdale Farm. Well, we're just out in the paddock at the moment trying to calibrate our seeder. Now, I did a video last year on how to check your calibrations and work out the adjustments you need to make. We're having a little bit of a different problem this year. This is a new seeder box to me. Now, there's two main adjustments on it. This is your gearbox here, and these are your gear settings here. Now, there's a seed chart here that tells you roughly what setting you need where, and there's a whole bundle of information on here. And I have found with every seeder that I have ever owned, they're not that accurate, and you need to actually calibrate on what comes out the back on the tines. Now, part of the reason this one is not accurate is because you can have so many different seeder configurations on the back here. Now, the other adjustment, if we just quickly walk right round the other side, because you can see it better on this side. So if we come down underneath here, there's two adjustment levers here, one for fertiliser and one for seed. And there's four settings here, a closed one and an open one. And there's a little sticker down here that tells us which way round to move them. Now, with both the gearbox set at full and the other setting underneath wide open, I am getting about 2/3 of the seed out that I require for seeding my oats. Now, there are a whole bundle of other adjustments on these. So I'm just going to quickly run through all of the possibilities that you can have to adjust these. These sprockets on this side here are where this drive comes out of the gearbox and goes down to your fertiliser and seed metering rollers. You can get different size gears to go on here, and presumably, I haven't ever checked, but presumably you can get different gears for down that end. Now, each time you change the size of a gear, it changes your speed. If you're ever mucking around with gears and you need to know which way to change them to get the desired outcome, think about your push bike and the gear setup on that. So you've got a big gear on the front and a cluster of gears like this down the back. Now, if you've got your big gear up the front going to a big gear at the back, that's the easiest to pedal it in, and that's the slowest gear. If you move the chain down to the littlest gear, that's the hardest gear to pedal it in, but it will make you go fast. So that's like top gear, that's like first gear. So if we come round this side, the book also has different settings for these two gears here. So if you put different size gears in here, it will change just the speed of this one here, which at the moment I've got that as the fertiliser drive, but because the boxes are the same, often this is the seed drive. The next place to look is these two cogs here. So you can change the size on it. At the moment, this is a 1-to-1 drive. Both cogs have the same number of teeth. But you can get bigger and smaller cogs to go here. And I have a bigger cog, so we may look at changing this. Then we're going to move down into this little section here, but I'm going to show you on the old gearbox because that's easier to see it on. So here's the gearbox off the old machine. And at the moment we've been running off these two gears, which are 1-to-1. Both gears have the same size teeth on them. That's what we're running on here at the moment. But there is also the possibility to engage this gear and disengage this one. So we're using a big gear onto a little gear. Actually, this is the drive in, so it's little gear onto a big gear. So this will slow it down, but we also have the option to swap these around. So we have a big gear going onto a little gear, which will speed it up dramatically. Now, one of the last things we have, this down here is the drive from the wheel. So we've got a fixed cog on the wheel down that end that we can't really change. But this cog here is just held on with 4 bolts. And this is quite a big cog. I can't actually count the teeth on there very easily at the moment, but we're going to pull that off in a minute. But if we go back to the old gearbox here, this one has a substantially smaller gear on it. So this is going to change the feed rate for everything. And that is going to, the big gear that we've got on there is going to reduce it. By putting this small gear on, that is going to substantially increase the seeding rate. So my suspicion is that the last time they used this seeder, they were seeding something like canola, where they have a really, really low seeding rate, because I believe they had a 40-foot bar behind it, and you only want about 2 kilos a hectare with canola, so they would have set it up to seed at the lowest rate possible. Now we're trying to do some oats, which we want at 90 kilos a hectare for our crop. It just won't go high enough. So we're going to start by changing this gear in here with the smaller one from the old setup. But this gear here is also a different size, so we may need to come through and change this, because this gear here corresponds with this gear down here, and it is larger than the old one is larger than this one. So with a big gear here onto a smaller gear here, that will increase our seeding rate again. Okay, so we've got our 2 gears off our 2 gearboxes from out of here. They're quite awkward to get into, but you can see the size difference here. This is the gear that was on our old seeder box, and it's 19 teeth. Usually they're stamped on somewhere, but they can be a bit hard to find at times. This one here is 29 teeth. So by changing from this one to this one, this is going to give us pretty close to the seeding rate that we need. So we're going to start by putting this one on, and if that doesn't give us quite enough, we might be just a little bit low, but we'll be pretty close. Then we will go through and change this one here for a bigger gear. Okay, so we've got our sprocket and chain and everything back together in here. We've still got our gearbox set on the maximum delivery that it can give. We've got our bag on one of our outlet pipes. So now we're just going to do a 20-metre test run. So where we drive everything forward 20 metres, and we want more than 160 grams of oats in that bag to give us the right calibration rate. So we come around the back of our tractor now, and we can see there's a bit of seed in our bag. It still doesn't feel like quite enough. Anyway, take our bag off and we'll go and weigh it. Okay, so we've got our scales set up with our ice cream container on. Now we just need to try and pour the seed into the ice cream container, and this wind is going to make it a little bit difficult. And we've got 100 and the wind's changing a little bit, about 150 grams. So that will be close enough to what we need. We'll call that calibrated. Well, there we have another calibration of our seeder. If you want all the mathematics and stuff to actually work out how many grams should be going down each tube, I've got a good video I did last year on that. I'll put a link in the description. Thanks very much for watching. I hope some of you found this useful, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.